Many of you have heard of the legend of the Sandman, but none of you expected it to take the form of a Mk18 Mod 1. Most of the time, bigger is better, but not when it comes to the Sandman Mk18. You see, it's the small size and the titanium nitride BCG that haunts the dreams of your enemies. Welcome to the Berquist Armament channel. I talk about gun products and builds. Today will be no different, but this episode is special because I will be going over the details of this Mk18 build. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. These free actions help the channel grow. YouTube doesn't like me or my content. The only reason I have made it this far is because of your support. I do not accept money or free products for my reviews. This ensures my opinions are within good faith. I'm a dealer for Roscoe Manufacturing, Aero Precision, CAC Industries, Ballistic Advantage, Midwest Industries, AR-15 parts, and AR-15 discounts. For those of you wondering, the Sandman monster is from The Sandman, a movie released in 2017, and Metallica's Enter Sandman was edited by Necrommancer on YouTube. For all the benefits you get with a short 10.5-inch 5.56 barrel, there are a couple downsides. First, the obvious, velocity is significantly reduced, but in my opinion the biggest downside is how the system is gassed. Because we have reduced the barrel from 20 inches to 10.5 inches, there is going to be a change in performance. How the system is gassed or the operational zone is difficult to get right. Too much or too little gas and the system will not function reliably. That being said, this Roscoe Bloodline 10.5-inch barrel is gassed perfectly. You will be able to run low pressure steel case 223 and high pressure 5.56 with a suppressor. Although I only use 5.56 ammo and I usually use a suppressor, that combination pushes this upper to the overgas side of the operational zone, which made this upper unpleasant to shoot. By mere coincidence, I found the cure to overgassed upper syndrome, also known as OUS. This cure consists of a low back pressure suppressor and a out of specification bolt carrier group. So let's take a look at the results. Before we do, it is important to mention the ammo used was PMC's X-Tac M193 5.56. The buffer spring was a Springco Red and the buffer was a H3. First up, a high back pressure suppressor and a bolt carrier group within the correct specifications. On average, ammo was ejecting at 1 o'clock. Next, a high back pressure suppressor and a out of spec bolt carrier group. Average ammo ejection was 2 o'clock. Next, a low back pressure suppressor and a out of spec BCG. Average ejection was 3 o'clock, which is perfect. Last, we have no suppressor with an out-of-spec BCG. On average, 4 o'clock ejection. I also wanted to note last round bolt hold open works consistently. Overall, I think we have found the cure to overgassed upper syndrome. Moving on, let me show you how this build is set up. Let's go over the details of this build. Starting at the muzzle, we have the Dead Air 3-prong Xeno flash hider, and this does a decent job at mitigating the flash, but overall it's a 10.5-inch barrel, so it's really not going to make that much of a difference. And then moving back, we have an Arasaka Light. This is the 300 series, so we have the body's a 300, and then the head is the E1 HTV2. And then in the back we have the Surefire Z68 Clicky. And I like a very simple flashlight, and this does an excellent job. And then on the top we have a cover. This is the 100 Concepts light cover. This is the small. The light cap does not fit this thing perfectly, so I had to modify this one a little bit, this retainer. But overall it works great, and the cap is a little big. It does wiggle around a little bit, but it still works just fine. And then lastly, the mount is just an Arasaka. It's an angled Picatinny mount. The two suppressors I have used with this Mk18 build, on the right we have the Dead Air Sierra 5. This is a 5.56 suppressor and it has relatively high back pressure. On the left we have the Dead Air Lazarus 6. This is a 6mm can and it has relatively low back pressure. One feature I really enjoy about this build are the Magpul ladder rail covers. This really smooths out the rails and makes sure that they're not sharp, and it is very good if you're not going to be using a glove. Moving down, we have the Emissary Development handbrake. This is the Picatinny version.
The handbrake helps me apply backward pressure to my shoulder, and it gives my wrist a little bit extra support so it doesn't get as sore when I'm carrying this for, a few hours or a long period of time. Moving back, we have the Sentry strap. This holds the sling into place when you're not using it. I do like these. Here we have the SIG Romeo 7. This red dot does run off a AA battery and is known for being pretty reliable if you get a decent one from the factory. And SIG red dots are actually pretty good. This is a good budget clone to the Aimpoint M4. And this is somewhat clone correct as well for a quad rail. For the barrel, we're running a Roscoe 10.5-inch carbine length barrel. This is a 4150 chrome moly vanadium barrel, and it is finished with nitride. And I have zero issues with this barrel, and I do love Roscoe barrels. They are built very well. For the gas block, I'm running a Roscoe low profile gas block. This thing is just fine. It works great just like any other gas block. For the handguard, we have the Midwest Industries Combat T-Rail. This is the 9.5 version. So as you can see, it's only an inch from the muzzle, about right there. This handguard is a good substitute if you don't want to buy a Daniel defense rail, which is the actual rail used by the military. Moving on the outside of the build, we have the Magpul bad lever. I do like the bad lever just because it goes over an existing system, so you can use a normal AR-15 lower, and it is a very simple add-on that you can either keep or take off if you don't like it, and it gives you ambidextrous controls on the bolt release. Or if you want to use it as a lefty, or if you just want to use it as intended, you can use it over here pretty traditionally. For the safety selector, we have the Radian safety selector. This is the one that does come with a 45 degree or a 90 degree. I tried the 45. It kept actually going off safe onto fire. So I'm not a big fan of the 45. I prefer the 90, and consistency for me is pretty big when I'm moving it across different platforms. Moving back down, we have the trigger. This is the Luru MBT. And these are pretty good two-stage triggers for the price. They work great, they're reliable, and nothing is super unique or special about them. They just work. And then I do like the forward assist, so I'm running that. And then as you can see, the upper and the lower are FDE. Lower is going to be an Aero Precision M4E1 lower, and it has the built-in trigger guard. And then the upper, we have just a regular AR-15 upper and FDE. Moving down, we have the Magpul K2 grip. I like the grip angle, I like the size, I like the texture. It's all good. I run them on all my builds, mostly. They work well. Moving back, we have a FDE buffer tube, SBA4 brace. This works quite well, and I like the FDE. So this is a pistol. I guess one other thing to mention is the magwell is flared, and that is quite nice. For the buffer, we're using a Geisley Super 42 H3 with the triple braided spring. I do like these. They do add a little bit extra tension with these very gassy systems. And this thing has worked great, and I've run it in here basically the whole time. And I don't plan to change it. I like how it's gassed and how the buffer system feels. Alright, moving into the guts, we have a Landtech M-Spec. This is a titanium nitride finish, so that's why it appears gold. This video is sponsored by Berquist Armament. I build custom upper receiver groups such as this one. One of the things that I do is I put in enhanced extractor springs. This helps with extraction. It is much more consistent, and it is much more reliable when you have a enhanced 5 coil spring rather than the weaker, shorter ones with the donut. So these are much better. And then additionally, you can't see, but I have an enhanced ejector spring in here as well, just to give it a little bit more power and more reliability. So if you're looking to get an enhanced extractor and an enhanced ejector, head over to my bio. That's where my website link will be. Go there, check out the upper receiver groups. All of them come with enhanced extractors and enhanced ejectors. This is a huge part which makes this rifle reliable, is the extractor and the ejector. In my opinion, it's one of the biggest things that determines how reliable your AR is going to be, is these two functions, and actually three, the fire-in pin, the extractor, and the ejector. These are probably the biggest and most important movements in the bolt carrier group. Every single time you fire a round, each one of these is used. These are high use parts and high wear parts, and these components all eventually will have to be replaced if you run your guns long enough. So that's about the extent that we're going to go into detail on this one, but if you're looking for a in detail gauging video, again, I already posted on the land tag, so go check that out.
Let's take a look at the accuracy. PMC's X-Tac M193 coming in at 2.4 inches at 50 yards. Here we have on target 77 grain Sierra Match King 223 grouping at 1.2 inches at 50 yards. Both groups were shot with a red dot and a suppressor. Overall, good enough accuracy for short distances like 200 yards and in. Additionally, the results are consistent with other Roscoe barrels. Let's finish up with my final thoughts. I'm happy how this build turned out. I wanted a functional Mk18 Mod 1 for training and home defense. In my opinion, we've checked all the boxes along with being pleasant to shoot. The Mk18 is notorious for having a sharp recoil and lots of gas to the face when using a suppressor. Before, the only way to get a properly gassed 10.5 inch barrel would be to use an adjustable gas block. But I'm not the biggest fan of adjustable gas blocks. None of my builds have them. And if I had to take a guess, none of your duty builds have them either. If you have a bolt carrier group that leaks a lot of gas, it is a perfect candidate for a 10.5 inch barrel. I would not recommend buying your way into an out of spec BCG because it is hard to know what you're going to get. This is one of those builds that is unique and is not easy to replicate. But using a BCG that is not gas efficient and a low back pressure suppressor is not the only way to get a perfectly gassed upper. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. Please do the YouTube stuff and go check out my bio for the link to my website if you are looking for a quality upper receiver group. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.